So, welcome everybody on this meetup tonight. Some of you already noticed maybe that I will talk about lightning. I will not talk about the weather forecast for tonight, but I will talk about what lightning is and what it does for cryptocurrencies. I deliberately says cryptocurrencies because it's a second layer scaling solution, not only for Bitcoin but for every other cryptocurrencies that meets a certain criteria, meets a certain conditions to have this. I should warn you that this presentation is a little bit technical, so I love to have an interactive audience, so if you have some questions, please ask them, shoot them. I prefer to have you understand lightning, then I finish all my slides. So really love to. So yeah, my name is Levi. Short introduction. I'm co-organizer. That's not only me. Co-organizer of the biggest Bitcoin meetup in Belgium. We have over 1,300 members and a lot of regular people. So it's a really energetic meetup in Belgium. I'm also responsible for helping and convincing merchants in Ghent to accept Bitcoin in their stores. We have at the moment 26 stores which accept Bitcoin, which is, I think, really great because they also don't have a payment processor, but really accept Bitcoin as Bitcoin and not convert them to any fiat currencies, which is, I think, really a cool thing. I run for 2 years now the Start to Bitcoin workshops in Belgium, and yeah, also Lightning is now like more international, if you can say it, because I'm now traveling for 4 months now, talking about lightning, spreading the gospel of lightning. I did so far Thailand, Vietnam, Japan, and now in New Zealand. This is my second in New Zealand. A few weeks ago I did one in Christchurch, which is a very small but also energetic meetup. And before this, I worked 3 years as an HR consultant, which has nothing to do with Bitcoin so far. But I didn't like it, so I quit it. And I'm not making money with this also. So before I start, it was some feedback from the last one at Christchurch. Before I start, I will showcase you what Lightning is and what it does by showing you an example, and then I will dive deeper in the technical explanation of how it works in the back end and how this trustless setup really works. Go to Lightning. Spin. Oh, you don't see this? Okay. Not sure how to show this.
Screen share.
Screen? It's with HDMI cables. Okay.
Should we drag it across?
Oh yeah, here it is. Oh, well, perfect. So, this is Lightning Spin. I don't know the guy who made it, so I'm not going to win or make some profit on it, but I'm building a similar thing, a similar Lightning casino with a friend of me. But it's really hard to make, so in the meantime I'm using this one. So what this does is you have to, like a normal casino, you have to pay put some satoshis in it. It will spin and it will tell you if you have won or not. But it's more about the speed. Like if I do the transaction, you can immediately see it will play. So I will show you how it goes. I will put 3,000 satoshis. Let's go crazy. And let's spin. So now it gives me a QR code, just like a regular Bitcoin transaction. Now I have to send funds to it. So I scan this QR code. So I pay it, and then a few seconds. So it's arrived. Now it will doing a spin. So you see it's like in a couple of seconds already, not like a Bitcoin transaction which takes 10 minutes if you want to have one confirmation. And I lost. So great. Not really they're not really profitable, but this is what Lightning does. And there's much more, of course, but it's really fast. Of course, this seems really simple, but there's a lot of things happening in the backend. And now I'll explain what it really does. So, okay, done that. So, what's on the agenda? First of all, I will explain very briefly what the scalability problem is in Bitcoin. Then we'll give you a simple math of why I don't believe scaling on the first layer on the blocks is a good solution. Then really lifting the clouds from Lightning, so dive deeper into the technical specifications. If there's some time left, we can talk about some geeky stuff that I put on. And then there's also some Lightning wallets and some killer apps, which I can explain to you. So that's on the agenda. So what Bitcoin really does at the moment is it's a peer-to-peer network, like everybody knows, but it's a gospel protocol, which means that if you're doing a Bitcoin transaction, you're really yelling it out, broadcasting it to the whole world, and everybody is talking it to everybody else. So, which is great, which is very secure, very robust. There's no central point of failure. But every participant in the middle has to record and remember every single transaction, which is really hard and really tough to scale such a system. So you all know, if you're already if you're more than a year in Bitcoin now, you maybe not seen this graph, but maybe experienced it, the high cost it brought with it. Like in December and January in 2000, so December 2017, January 2018, this resulted in very high fees. If you wanted to do a Bitcoin transaction, you would almost have to pay $35 or 40, in New Zealand it's $60 to do a Bitcoin transaction. So you don't want to do that for buying your regular coffee on it. So Satoshi Nakamoto, really cool story, bro, but couldn't really scale, and you can't really do it as an electronic cash system. Of course, Bitcoin Cash says they can do it. So in the beginning, there were also already some problems, like how should we scale Bitcoin? So we have an off-chain scaling solution and an on-chain scaling solution. A couple of weeks ago, there was Bitcoin ABC and Bitcoin SV, another hard fork, which was really popcorn time back then. Not sure how it.
What's the difference between off-chain and on-chain?
Yeah, I'll explain it later.
Okay.
But yeah, in the next slide I will explain it for the scaling. So the good old on-chain days. So now I will explain the on-chain scaling solution that Bitcoin Cash has. It's meaning that in regular Bitcoin in the blockchain, there's a block produced every 10 minutes. If you have an on-chain scaling solution, it means that every transaction that happens in the blockchain should be included in the block. So if you want to have more people using Bitcoin, those blocks should be bigger and bigger. And at the moment it's 32 megabytes, if I'm not mistaken, in Bitcoin Cash. But if you want to have like every 7 billion people using Bitcoin, and if Bitcoin goes to the moon, you're not really sure how big these blocks are going to be. So I did a simple math for doing that. Let's assume we have 7 billion people want to use Bitcoin, and the number of transactions that everybody does is 2 transactions a day, which is the average in Belgium. In Belgium it's 1.5, so and Belgium is not really a cashless society, so this is really not a very, it's more conservative example. And the size of a basic transaction is 250 bytes. If we multiply these numbers, we get a block size of 24 gigabytes every 10 minutes. Or if you want to store the blockchain, it would give you 1.30 petabytes of data. That's only storage information. So if you also want to run this system, you also need a very hard computer to process all the transactions. so you need a very strong CPU power, and your bandwidth, because you have to download and upload those blocks in your computer, which is also very big. So I guess we don't want to have all Google Center for using Bitcoin. That's also not the idea of Satoshi Nakamoto. It should be that we have our own system where we can have our own verification of money. That's why we love Raspberry Pis, which are small and very cheap to run. Everybody knows what a Raspberry Pi is? No? Okay, a Raspberry Pi, I have one with me. It's in fact, it's nothing more than a really small computer. It's a really small and cheap computer where you can run programs on it. For instance, you can run Bitcoin on it, and then you have your own full node running, verifying every single transaction without relying on third parties who says you received that money or received those Bitcoins. So you can have everything on one small device. And it's very important to have incentivize this kind of things, because if you have more of these things running, it's a more decentralized system, and that's what the whole point of Bitcoin is.
Lightning network.
Yeah, this has the Lightning Network on it also. Excuse me? Yeah, yeah, like this one is $150 with the hard drive also with it. So that's relative cheap, but you can have. You have also cheaper Raspberry Pis, the Raspberry Zero stuff, but won't go into many details for that. The second thing is, it should be atomic also. So if you want to buy, for instance, a coffee, how you normally do a transaction with your bartender or in a shop is you give the money and you get the receipt or the product immediately. It's atomic. You give it and you get something in return. But in Bitcoin, it's not really. Okay, if you don't wait for confirmations, it's immediately. But if, for instance, a bartender or the shop is some risk averse and he wants to have one confirmation, then you are paying and you have to wait for one confirmation, and then you will receive your product, which in Bitcoin takes 10 minutes. And if you're buying for a coffee, you will have a cold coffee, and that's not really what you want in using Bitcoin. So scaling Bitcoin is more like a need of transactions versus a need of validation, and it's, in my opinion, it's more the latter is more important to have ease of validation, because we aren't building a PayPal 2.0, but more of a robust decentralized system. I really like the quote of Elizabeth Stark, who is the head of Lightning Labs, one of the implementations of Lightning. And she makes the analogy, the comparison, that if you want to scale Bitcoin on-chain, it's like sending your emails to everybody, and then that one person you meant to be receives the email, but also in the meantime, the whole world receives your email. And that's not really efficient, that's not really how the internet and email works. You just send one email to another person. And that's more what Lightning is. It's sending one transaction to another one and not to the whole world. To make some comparison on it. Have you some questions about this?
Is it kind of like a off-chain accounting system, so it minimizes the actual on-chain transactions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah, indeed. That's what it does. Yeah. Yeah. Now I will explain really what Lightning is. So you remember the South Park picture in the beginning, where everybody is gospeling to each other and yelling the transactions? Lightning is more like Chinese whisperers, where you only have a predefined path, where one transaction is predefined where it should go until the end recipient. So you don't yell it to everybody, which means it's more private, more secure. Of course, there are a lot of problems or a lot of security issues with it. One of the examples, for instance, is if you're playing this telephone game with your friends, the end receiver always gets another message than the original message. That shouldn't be the case in Lightning, because then you have a big problem. So in Lightning, it's of course the same message for each recipient, and for instance, what would happen if somebody exits the game or would lie in the game? So we have to think of security or solutions to overcome this system. So we enter the off-chain scaling solution of Bitcoin. Some people already have some experience with Lightning and doing Lightning transactions on it. You? Already? You also? Alright. Using LND or? Alright.
I was using
Eclair. Yeah. Alright. Sea Lightning? Right. Cool. Have some experts also in the room. So please, if I say something that you don't really feel comfortable, or they say like it's wrong what you're saying, please, because I'm also still learning in this whole space. So we will first give you a brief explanation of what Lightning really is. So we already know that it's not a gospel protocol, but more of a predefined path where we give messages to. But how it works is it's like, for instance, if you go to your bartender and you want to buy a coffee over there, what you normally do is you order the coffee and you pay for the coffee. With Lightning, it's more like you open a tab with it, a shared account you could say, and you preload it with a certain amount of money, like for instance $10 on it. Now you make a contract for the bartender and says, hey, we have this tab over here, this shared account, and there's $10 on the shared account, but it's still my money, and there's $0 on your side of the tab. Now, if you want to buy a coffee, for instance, you buy a coffee, and it's $1 for a coffee. What you now do is makes or construct a new contract which invalidates the older contract. In this new contract, it states that you own $9 and the bartender owns $1. Now, you buy, for instance, a couple of coffees. Still, you have $0 on your side and $10 on the other side. That's a little bit what Lightning does. Now, of course, for instance, you have now this shared account, but for instance, if now the bartender wants to close that shared account, he can close it without your agreement also. And for instance, if I want to share that account, if I want to close that account because I'm leaving the pub and he doesn't answer, for instance, I can also close that account without his cooperation. So it's having a shared account, but we can also use it unilaterally to close it, if you know what I'm saying. So what we have did with this is we cancel out the different transactions in the meantime, and we only have one transaction to open the account, and we buy, for instance, 10 coffees, and then if you want to close the tab, then we broadcast the latest transaction back to the blockchain. So instead of using 10 different transactions for 10 coffees, we only did 2 transactions, one to open the tab and one to close the tab, which drastically decreases the amount of transactions on chain for it. This is what it really does.
How does it keep track of, say, you open it with the first beer, and you close it with the 9th beer? How does it keep track along the way?
You yourself keep track of it, and also the other participants. So it's only you and the...
Does it send a signal each time you order a new beer?
Yeah. What you're in fact doing is, if you buy one beer, you make a contract and you give this contract to the bartender. What the bartender is also doing is, he receives $1, so he makes a contract saying that, hey, I have $1, you have $9, I make this contract and I give it to you. You're exchanging contracts to each other.
Each time there's a new transaction?
Each time there's a new transaction, which invalidates the older contract. That's what in fact it's doing. So you always have to keep track of which is the latest contract, because that's the honest one. Of course, what could happen is, If, for instance, I bought 10 beers, and I still have the first contract in my back pocket where I should receive $10, that could be, there should be like a penalty mechanism where if I try to cheat and broadcast this first transaction, that I should be punished, which I'll explain later in it. But yeah, it's every time there's a new contract, it invalidates the older contract.
So basically you are keep tracking of the signed transaction, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise I could establish a payment channel with you and instantly say end the channel with the status that you transfer all your money to me. But it won't work if you don't have a signed transaction from you.
Yeah, indeed, yeah. Of course, you always have both to have a transaction, a contract in it. Because if I don't respond, then we don't doing any business.
Don't sign.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah. So we need both to sign the contract. So you make a contract, you sign it, give it to me. I make a contract, I sign it, and I give it to you. That's what it really is. So what Lightning changes in Bitcoin is, in Bitcoin you really transfer the value of a Bitcoin. In Lightning you more transfer the promise of giving a Bitcoin to another one. That's more what the difference is. Of course, everybody is making false promises, so you don't want to be cheated and you don't want to lose your money in it. So the cool thing about Lightning is completely trustless, it's completely also decentralized, or I guess some people want to doubt that. But the important thing is that you don't have to trust anybody. So I've made up 2 questions to answer what these are really doing, but if you have some questions also, please ask. So now we know that we have to like open a shared account, open a tab with somebody. It's more like having, the real terminology is open a payment channel with somebody. Now, if you go to the bartender, you open a payment channel because you want to order a beer over there, but a lot of your transactions are like you only do once. So if you go to the end of the street and you want to buy a hot dog, you don't want to have all the burden to open a payment channel, make a contract, close that channel. So there has to be some kind of mechanism where all these participants are linked to each other. And that is what Lightning really does. So we have the same example. Alice is with the bartender Bob, and she has to owe $5 to the bartender Bob. Now she's also with Dave in the bar, and Dave also has a payment channel with the bartender Bob. But Alice and Dave don't have any payment channels or tabs with each other. But what they are doing is, Dave says to Alice, "Hey, let's have a game of pool, and the loser has to pay $5 to the other one." So Alice loses the game of pool, and now she has to pay Dave $5. What she normally could do is open a payment channel directly to Dave and pay $5 to Dave, but that would be very inconvenient, and like I mentioned before, you don't want to open payment channels with everybody. So it's automatically done by the software wallet, but your wallet recognizes that you are connected to Bob and Bob is connected to Dave. So what you are now doing is you are paying $10 to Bob, which goes $5 directly to Dave. This is how Lightning is done. It redirects parts, it finds parts to send your money to. So of course you don't need to open a payment channel with Dave. Of course there's some risk involved over here, because Bob could get the $10 and say, "Hey, I'm just getting this $10 and I don't forward it to Dave, and I just close the channel and I walk away." You don't want to trust that Bob will forward it. So how Lightning works is, what you're really doing is you wait for Bob to give you a message that he forward the payment to Dave. If Dave says, "Hey, I received the money," then Alice will send the money to Bob. So Alice doesn't lose anything if Bob goes offline. Alice only sends the money if Bob sends it to Dave. And this is done by smart contracts. So if somebody heard, some of you heard about smart contracts, Lightning is nothing more than a smart contract on Bitcoin network, in fact. It's an if then else contract, and if it happens, then the money will send, otherwise you get your money back.
Question.
Yeah.
Can both parties know which hop you have in common? The bartender. Do they both know at least an address that they share in common that it's going through?
Yeah. So the part is only known from the source. Alice only knows the part to Dave. Dave doesn't know if it came from. He knows it came from Bob, but maybe it came from Carol and from David and then from Alice. Alice always knows the path. Dave doesn't know where it comes from.
So it adds an element of anonymity.
Yeah. It's onion routed. In fact, it's like it's like Tor browsers. In fact.
Is there any way of knowing beforehand that you've got a route to the other party, like rather than setting it, having it fail, and you know what to do?
Yeah, that's at the moment is source routing. So you really are pinging and checking if you have a route to somebody. If it corresponds, you know you can set up a route to over there. So if you're losing the Lightning network now it really is really fine. But if you use it like I started when it was 2 months old in March last year, because there were a few participants, you were not always connected to everybody in the network. So you had a lot of failures. But by now you have a lot of everybody is really well connected to everybody.
As a participant, are you incentivized to connect to open a channel to a well-known node?
Yeah.
So you can to ease this routing. Is that a good idea? Or?
Yeah. What you could do is in fact like Bart and Bob. It's not Bob. It's like Amazon, and it's a node that it's connected to everybody. You could do that, which is then you are well connected because you will always have found a route. But it's not also that smart because you are really relying on a really central hub, and that's also not really what you want to do. Because if Amazon, for instance, changes its policy, so I forgot to mention that, but each hub will ask a small fee for forwarding the payment. At the moment it's 1 Satoshi, so Bob will get 1 Satoshi if he gives it to Dave. If Amazon Hub, for instance, changes the policy and says, hey, I'm going to ask 10 Satoshis for it, then you are like really obligated to use that. So you want to have alternatives, and every node has all the possibilities to open different connections. So like for instance, my node was connected to 16 hubs, for instance. So it looks for the cheapest route, for instance. So if the Amazon hub is like really, it's really well connected but really expensive, then I'm looking for another route around it, which is more cheaply to do it. Like this whole network is really like a race to the bottom of fees, because if he raises his fees, we find just another route to do it. Does this answer your question? You took?
Yeah, but I have another one after him.
Okay.
I was just wondering, is there a record of Bob's, say, doing his accounting? Is there a record that he received $10 Bitcoin and sold 5, or is that all happening kind of off record as far as accounting goes, like tax purposes and things like that?
Oh, that's a difficult question. For tax purposes, I'm not really sure how to answer this.
On the blockchain, if you do a transaction, you can see the transaction there.
Mm-hmm.
So, can you look at the transaction of a Lightning node and say these are the transactions?
No. Yeah. Okay. No. That's a great thing. This is all private. You don't know what is public is funding that multi-signature account where you and the bartender has to fund to that shared tab. That's a regular Bitcoin transaction. That's the only thing that's public, and so that's the only thing you know. But so what you will see is the channel capacity, meaning that there's $10 on it, but you're not really sure, like, is it $9 on Alice's side, is it $1 on Bob's side, or is it $7 an Alice cent. That you don't know that. You only know there's some dollars in that shared account.
Okay, right, because I was thinking like if $20,000 gets routed to Bob, but then 19,000 is being forwarded to Dave. If that was all being shown in the accounting, Bob would have to take taxes, capital gains taxes, on $20,000 worth of transaction. But he only actually netted 1,000, just trying to make sense of, whether that's, kind of how the tax regulation would affect.
Because you see that it's going from one sender to receiver.
Right.
So routing money from through your channel isn't a taxable event because it doesn't change the balance of points that you have. Right. The only time your balance will go up is if you then receive a fee for it.
Yeah.
So there might be tax on the ones that don't you fee.
Okay, so yeah, it's for the fees that you're talking about. If it's routed, then
He
you.
was talking about the amounts, but only the fee would potentially be taxable.
Okay,
You can
yeah.
record that yourself, trivial.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess it's also, you have to be honest if you make some routing to do it. If you, for instance, $20 is going to it, then there's $10 on fees for it. That's what you meant for it. Like Bob gets
Well,
that
there's
$1,000.
the fees part, but just the fact that if Bob's received a whole bunch of money, it's been routed to him, so at some point if he had this money, then he's basically, sending that money to Dave.
He doesn't have possession of the money, I don't think. Bob never gets the money. It goes through Bob, but he doesn't actually have possession of it.
No, no. It's really, yeah. So it's difficult.
That's kind of philosophical. Does the Bob have this money or didn't he?
From a tax perspective, it wouldn't matter
No.
because
Yeah, indeed, because it's just routing the money.
it's only the chain reaction, the chain transactions. So from a tax perspective, it all comes out in the wash on
I
chain anyway.
understand that there is only one
No.
state of the payment channel, but
But what in fact having is Bob doesn't get really the 20,000. What he first did is send it to Dave, and in the meantime he gets the 20,000 from Alice. So he's just forwarding the payment. It's just happening in milliseconds really. So
He never has ownership of the money though. You can't say, oh, this is my money now and take it.
no,
Yeah.
that's not
Yeah,
possible.
so he never owns it in effect.
Yeah.
There's no transaction.
So just think it, you'd hope the taxable event would be when the
He
ongoing
never has
transaction.
possession of the money. It's just going through his
So
nose.
there's no.
That's an interesting question. I haven't thought about that way around it.
that's
But
an
how-
question because regulators are coming in really interested in this approach.
Indeed, but what we are trying to build with Lightning is of course a private network, which has a lot
because
of.
you can imagine that it could be designed, it was kind of designed this way that being a operator of payment channel is kind of a job that you do. I mean, obviously automatic, the system that you use to make money.
Should be noticed that it's not really profitable to do this. Like for instance, the routing fee is at the moment 1 Satoshi, so it's not really that you can set up a business for routing payments on it. If you have a good, well-connected router, it gives you maybe 50 or 50 cents or €1 a month. So it's not really a lot of profitable.
As the router,
business.
when do you actually get that fee? So you get, say, 1 Satoshi per transaction. When does it actually become a physical on-chain? When you set it right? So that would be when you record your taxable event.
Yeah.
Yeah, what really is happening is it's all done with pre-images with hashes. So what you are really doing is you're making a smart contract to Bob, and you say to Bob, hey, wait, I will start. Sorry, I normally have a slide where it's more technical explained, but I felt the need that it's more easy to explain it technical, so I will do this one. Okay. See this? Alright. So to answer your question. what Dave is really doing is he makes a hash. He takes a random number, he hashes it, and he gives this hash to Alice. Now Alice has this hash and gives it to Bob. Now, how does this smart contract looks like? In this smart contract, Alice says to Bob, "Hey, I give you 1 Bitcoin if you can give me the key of this hash, this pre-image. If you can give me this pre-image, I can give you the Bitcoin. Otherwise, I will get my money back in 3 days." And this is done forward. Bob can get it back in 2 days, another way around, till it's gone to Dave. Dave, of course, has a pre-image and says, "Hey, Carol, I got the pre-image. Now you can give me the 1 Bitcoin." What's really happening in Lightning is because Dave gave the pre-image to Carol, Carol gives it to Bob, and Bob gives it to Alice. Everybody in the pod knows that the pre-image is public and that everybody has it. So normally it would be 1 Bitcoin, 1 Bitcoin, 1 Bitcoin. But in reality, it's going 1 Bitcoin, so really directly to Dave, and the contract gives 1 Satoshi to each participant. So you are really sending 1 Bitcoin plus 3 Satoshis. And if the Bitcoin passes by Bob, it's 1 Bitcoin, 2 Satoshis, 1 Bitcoin, 1 Satoshi, 1 Bitcoin. It's when it's rounded, when it succeeds, then the 1 Satoshi is extracted from the payment.
But they're not on-chain 1 Satoshis, right?
No,
so when those contracts are settled, as Dan said, that's when the nodes will get their fee. Is that how it works?
Yeah, they all have like those multi-signatures, so they share tabs. So they all have, like, for instance, $10, like with the bartender, like in my example, and they all extract the 1 cent from it. So then, because they rounded different payments, it sums up till they have like 10 Satoshis. And then if Bob says, "Hey, I want to stop with Lightning," then he closes the channel. And then if, for instance, Alice and Bob has a payment channel of $10, then Bob will close the channel and there will still be left $9 and 95 cents, for instance, on Alice's side, and then 5 cents on Bob's side, and that's the latest stage where they will broadcast it to the blockchain. So it's each time the contract that changes for the fees. That's really what happened.
But I mean, potentially they could use those fees earlier than a certain point.
Because they have it on the Lightning.
This is already on the channel, so maybe they could
Not really.
their Lightning account gains 1 Satoshi, which they could potentially spend if they wanted to at some point, without closing the channel.
They can only spend it in that same channel.
Yeah.
If you want to, because now you have, for instance, 1 cent on your side of the channel, you can only send it back. But if you want to spend it to someone else, you would have to open a new channel with new funds in it. This is the current state of Lightning, which is really in its infancy, but the splicing is where you can top up channels without closing them. So you can have 1 channel funding another channel, 1 channel drains another channel to fund another channel. That's how it would, but at the moment it doesn't work like that. But that's what Blockstream and all these companies are working on.
So in New Zealand, we have a particular tax advice, which is how to deal with tax with cryptocurrency, and it's really easy with on-chain transactions that we can do. So part of the discussion is how Lightning fits in.
But for the tax,
I'd say Lightning's like when you go to the shop and you give someone $20 and they're getting you 10 back. You still haven't done the transaction until it's closed off. So I don't think tax laws apply to Lightning.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they say.
it all comes down that you should be honest to the tax man at the end. So you say what you're earning. If you have cash money, it's also
get 10,000 transactions of Lightning transactions per person per day.
yeah. I don't think at the moment I don't think it's really profitable, like I said, and taxman has maybe more important things to do than look at Lightning.
Are there any Lightning nodes making money?
Excuse me?
Are there any Lightning nodes making money?
The most connected one is from Bitrefill. You heard about it, where you can buy Amazon gift cards. and Alex Bos, and one of Alex Bosworth. Alex Bosworth is a guy that works for L&D Lighting. Those two are the most well-connected nodes. And I think they, like I said, a couple of dollars, maybe a month. Not really a lot.
Your power is going to be more than that.
No, it really isn't. But
to run your node, you're going to be spending power, right? So,
yeah.
So
maybe if you, because it also needs channel management, because you have to look at the graph and see, oh, there are a lot of payments going from one side from the graph to the other. This is lighting at the moment, and what Alex, like for instance, is doing is he looks at this graph the whole day and looks at where is money flowing, and he says, oh, this one is paying a lot of money to this one, and now they have 5 routes to it. So I connect to this one, and I connect to this one, and I ask half of it. He's really doing that all day. So if you can beat him, great. But yeah, it's really, like I said, it's really a race to the bottom. And they're building algorithms to watch the whole graph and sees where are the cheapest way you have to connect. So
what incentivizes someone to run a node?
what do you incentivize to run a full Bitcoin node?
Yeah, well, exactly.
Really nothing, because running a Bitcoin full node doesn't really incentivize apart from the mindset to have your own full node running all your valid transactions.
So you run a full node, presumably because you want the privacy of owning your own keys and wallet, etc.
Correct.
What's the equivalent in Lightning?
Correct. But the cool thing about Lightning is that it doesn't ask for a lot of extra infrastructure, for a lot of extra costs to it. If you have your Raspberry already, or for instance, you have your computer already running a Bitcoin full node, you only have to install software on top of it, which is completely free. But if you want to run a full node on Bitcoin, you will have to have CPU power, you will have to have a hard disk, for instance, from 1 terabyte if you want to have a couple of blocks. And that's really quite incentive. So installing Lightning on top of it is completely free, and it gives you a small Satoshi. So it gives you an extra incentive to run a full node without the extra expense of doing it. That's really why I also like Lightning, because now we'll have more Bitcoin full nodes.
Will the fees go up, do you?
Excuse me?
Will the fees go up?
It depends on every node on its own. Every node can say, like for instance, Alex Bosworth asks 2 or 3 Satoshis for per forward payment, but the standard, if you for instance buy a Casa or using the standard implementation, it's 1 Satoshi for every payment that goes through your node. So 1 Satoshi is really really small.
So seems likely they'll go down. It's a race to the bottom.
Yeah, indeed. Like I mentioned before, if somebody increases the fee, you just can reroute through it, and so that's a cool thing about it.
So from the channels can set their own prices.
Yeah.
Okay, so you could have a channel that sets it for a whole Bitcoin, which is silly, and people looking for the cheapest prices, you know, just set it to search the quickest or the cheapest route. People do that, right?
Yeah.
All right. So that's good. It's a rationality. People will be bidding on the best.
Yeah. It's a market-based network. Also, like, but I want to also elaborate on that, because, for instance, if you have, let's use this example again. For instance, you want to say you want to send 2 Bitcoins to Dave, but Bob only has 1 Bitcoin in his capacity with Dave. Then you can't really send 2 Bitcoins to Dave, because this is the bottleneck. He only has 1 bit. So you're looking for another route who has more channel capacity to route your node. These guys know it probably, and also will increase their fees because they have more capacity. So it's really again a market of supply and demand. It goes.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
That's perfect. And right now we don't see bandwidth problems, because this is solving a bandwidth problem that we have with Bitcoin, 2 meg per block or whatever, right?
Yep.
But it could be in the future, some far future, but it could be in the future that these start getting maxed out. So that then it becomes even more important for them to bid one another.
Yeah.
So as the price goes up, you have more people opening more channels, wanting to make money in the same way that the mining fees incentivize miners to earn. And you want them bidding on price. So
Yeah.
it seems well constructed.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what you say. Yeah.
So you said to me that it started in January, that it's available on mainnet.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any data on how it influences throughout the whole blockchain network, digital network? Does anyone consider this to gather some data on how did this change impact the network?
Like how many transactions are transactions are extracted from the blockchain? You mean that normally should perform on the blockchain?
I was thinking about more like in Ethereum we have gas prices, and here you have you pay with just some amount of Bitcoin, right, per transaction. So how does it influence the value of transaction fees that you have to make in the Bitcoin network?
I don't think at the moment, because the blocks aren't full. So if you use Lightning or not, it's cheaper to use Lightning, but at the moment you pay 1 Satoshi per byte if you use the regular on-chain. So meaning that the blocks are like half full. So I don't really think it really affects the block. But if you are interested in some analysis, I know a guy who really does some analysis on it. I don't know from my head, but I can send it to you.
Has the Lightning Network hurt the Bitcoin mining community?
You know, miners aren't really in favor of Lightning, of course, because it takes some fees off. Excuse me?
They have less transactions to mine.
Correct. Yeah, they have less transactions, so it takes a lot of fees from the miners, and it puts them on the nodes. In fact, which is like, you could say like how does this play out in the future? I'm not really sure how this will work out, but how I see it is that Bitcoin is more like a base layer for a monetary system, and it's like, if you read the Bitcoin Standard book, also the author of that says that it should be more like of a settlement layer where really big payments are going through, or like where a lot of payments are bundled together to do it, but not like for your average frappuccino coffee to do it on Bitcoin. That's what Lightning comes in. Lightning is built to have really small payments, machine-to-machine payments, and all stuff like that. So yes, it will take some fees from it, but maybe it will open doors for other things to build, to have on the Bitcoin first layer.
What was the reference you said? What was the book?
The Bitcoin Standard.
Bitcoin Standard, is it? Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, so it takes 10 minutes to reconcile Bitcoin. So compared to that 10 minutes, how long does it take for Lightning to reconcile?
It takes 10 minutes for confirmation.
Confirmation.
Ah, you mean when a payment is sent, how long does it take?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did the demo in the beginning, so I think 1 second, 2 seconds.
Compared to 10 minutes.
Yeah, if some people would argue, yeah, if you're doing a payment, if you're doing a regular payment, it's also instant, because you don't want to have a confirmation. Like if I just do a transaction from my wallet to your wallet, it's also instant. You will see it in a couple of seconds. But it could be like there's a double spending problem on it. So you want to have to really sure if you receive the money, you want to wait 10 minutes to have one confirmation so that the transaction is included in a block. If you do that for regular transactions, for buying coffees and all small stuff, it takes a long time, because in Starbucks then you have to wait for 10 minutes, for instance, to buy a coffee. In Lightning, it's instant, a few seconds, without sacrificing any trust in it.
That's great.
That's why I'm also very excited about Lightning.
What would be the smallest transaction that would be viable on the Lightning network? Like, could you do 1 Satoshi transactions?
There was a couple of days ago. It's on the Guinness Book of Records of the smallest piece of art ever sold, and it's I think it's less than 1 Satoshi.
Yeah, 1 millisatoshi.
Yeah, 1 millisatoshi. Thanks. Yeah. So
You can do less than 1 Satoshi
on
transaction.
Lightning, yes, you can have probabilistic payments. So it means that you have 1,000 of a Satoshi. If I'm not
So
mistaken.
it's actually denominated in millisatoshis.
Yeah.
You could do probabilistic payments to get smaller.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Except for the fees.
Probabilistic,
So the-
like you have a 1 in 1,000 chance of actually getting 1 Satoshi. That's how they know about it.
It's really a lot of statistics, which maybe you can say.
In the case of your payment is actually denominated in thousands of Satoshi, and when the channel is closed, it's rounded up to 1 Satoshi with the amount that's left over going being given to fees. If you want to make a probabilistic payment, you can make smaller payments than that by using some kind of bank model.
Okay.
But as it seems at the moment, 1,000 Satoshi.
Yeah. Really, really cool stuff. There's a lot of statistics involved with the probabilistic. I'm not. Yeah, I can send you some articles on that because it's Joseph Poole, if I'm not mistaken, that have written that.
Yeah, Boone with someone else.
Cool stuff, yeah.
Yeah, can you,
Yeah, sorry.
keep going.
Well, Bitcoin being decentralized, like those after measures got
It's like a trade of
Bitcoin.
centralization.
Sorry.
Measures got a lot of Bitcoin on the network, and he's got the lower fees, so everyone's starting to use him, and then people don't connect to everyone else; they just connect to him. And then is that kind of like become centralized again?
Yeah, you could say that's like the Amazon hub at the moment. What really is happening is to have a visualization of a graph on a screen is very bad because it's in fact it's more like a circle, not a circle, a sphere. So yeah, a sphere. And if you want to put a sphere on a screen, it flattens out, and that's what you get because in reality there are a lot more of these centralized servers, and in fact these are also like lines that are behind it. But at the moment, Lightning is a little bit centralized. You don't have to make pictures on it, or you don't really have to make jokes. It is really a bit centralized with it. But I not really see a big problem in having a centralized hubs and doing that. Because if you don't like to connect to them, you just connect to another one.
That's
And
more natural. You don't have to.
you don't have to. You have the choice. You have the option to do a payment around it. Well, 99% of the people won't hassle with all those channel management. And there's a guy who's making an algorithm who looks at like, okay, you want to open 3 channels. You're going to have 1 channel that connects to very far connected nodes. 1 channel that connects to. He makes an algorithm which makes it more decentralized, and LND is looking to incorporate it in that, which is really cool. So I really like what these guys are building and stuff like that. But
So you're trying to stop the big.
you never,
splitting them.
an exactly decentralized network doesn't exist. You always have to fight to stop it. You always have to build solutions to decrease the centralization. But a perfect decentralized network is like it's like a fantasy. It doesn't really exist. But
Unicorn.
yeah, indeed, you want to make it.
Kind of like a law of nature or something.
Yeah, indeed. But there are options to evade it, so that's the goal.
The only answer is when we reach the threshold of what we like as being is it decentralized enough, or what is the trade between being centralized and decentralized? Because as you said, it's just reality.
Yeah, it gives you the option to still run your own full node, to do all your own validations, and to do where you don't have to trust any third party. So, in my opinion, it's still better money than we have today, and this option.
I was going to say, seeing as you can you run your own node, full Bitcoin node, and you're not getting any fees for it, could you run a Lightning node with 0 fee?
Yeah, but what you can have then is a denial of service attacks with a lot of people opening channels with you and your node is crashing. So I think it's Yeah, I think there are some people having 0 satoshis, but why would you want to do that?
Well, why would you run a full node anyway? I mean, like, you know, if you're doing it because you want to support the system,
True.
you put 0, and then everyone starts using it, you become very popular, and then you know, jack the fee up.
True, but in fact, it's a great point what you are making, because what you are doing is, if you don't ask satoshis for it, you're taking a risk. Let me explain it to you. For instance, you are redirecting payments, and you are Carol, sorry, my example, you're Carol, and you're asking 0 satoshis, so you don't ask anything. What would happen if Bob goes offline if you are routing those payments? Like, Alice loses the payment, it redirects, but Bob, in the millisecond in the process, Bob goes offline. You are here like, shit, I already paid that Bitcoin to Dave, and now I'm not connected to Alice. So hey, I need this Bitcoin because, so what do? Now you have this contract of Bob, and you have to broadcast it on the blockchain, paying fees for it. If you don't ask any satoshis, then you are doing this all for free.
Right. So you're going to get hammered by the transaction fees on chain.
Yeah, indeed. So you want to have small satoshis, which will give you a margin if your the nodes that are connected to you goes offline, because then you can take the contract and broadcast it on chain, which will give where you need some fees to do that. That's why you have to ask some fees for it.
What about when you create a channel, if it's got lots of inputs? Because you know you pay per byte on chain. If you do a transaction, start a channel up, but you've got thousands of small inputs, and your transaction cost is very high. Because like the exchanges have the problem, you know, with lots of small inputs, and then when they do a payment, it costs them a lot of money to send. So could that be a problem if you're doing like your on-chain transaction is lots of small inputs?
I think you'd pay that when you open the channel. Because you don't have to commit those funds.
So that would just be your problem.
So the fee at the opening of the channel will be high.
Yeah.
Yeah. I missed a little bit when you were explaining it. It's like, and I'm not following.
If you have lots of inputs,
what do you mean with inputs? Channels that are opening to you, like for instance.
Yeah. When you open a channel, you do a Bitcoin. You need an input to go to the on-chain.
Yeah.
And there's fees per satoshi per byte. If rather than doing one input on chain, say there's 10 inputs on chain, it costs you more money.
Okay. Yeah.
So I was just thinking, you know, if someone starts up a channel with lots of inputs, but you see what I'm saying?
And then you want to do an aggregation, or take all those contracts and broadcast them at the same time to the blockchain. Is that what you are saying?
I'm just saying, if it's got lots of inputs, your transaction on chain is going to cost you a lot more than if it's just one input.
Yeah.
So in that case, if you're starting a channel and you've got lots of inputs, it's going to cost you a lot more to create the channel.
There's more efficiency in that.
It's a bigger. You are taking a bigger risk then, in fact, because you have more inputs.
Yeah, so you
more
need to make
channels
more
to
transactions before you close it, otherwise you'll never make your money back.
Yeah. Correct. But yeah, going offline. That's also one of the things of channel management. You want only to connect to nodes that have like a good review. There's like you can see the node lifetime of it, and you don't want to connect to a node where you see it's every second it goes offline. That's not really what you want to do. That's also public information if they choose that to give you. So if that answers a bit your question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do I have to pay a fee to close the channel?
The fee for the regular Bitcoin transaction.
I've opened a channel, I've done some transactions, now I want to close the channel. Do I pay a fee for closing?
Not on Lightning, but the Bitcoin transaction. But because what Lightning is it's nothing more than having multi-sig. So if we open a channel, we are committing funds to a multi-sig, which is one transaction. If you're closing the channel, we are closing the multi-sig, so we are doing a regular transaction. So that's all the only fees for opening.
Who pays it? The person who opened it?
Excuse me?
The person who's closing it or the person who opened it? Because two people close it, right?
They are.
Do they both pay the fee?
If you, there are two ways of closing it unilaterally. If I don't respond, you have to pay for it.
Right.
Yeah. But then you also have to
If
wait.
you do respond, maybe just not split it.
If we do respond, then it just splitting it.
So I should never respond to
Maybe two less questions because otherwise I think I run out of time.
Mine wasn't really so much a question. I was talking about the fees.
Okay.
I think it's going to be increasingly common to see zero fees and negative fees
Yeah.
going forward, because one of the reasons you might want to have very low fees is if you have people route through you in the opposite direction, you can rebalance the liquidity that's in your channel.
Yeah.
So that's something that we haven't really discussed.
Oh, true.
But it's it's much cheaper to take a very small liquidity risk and receive no fees, or pay a very small fee to have someone route through you, than to, for example, splice in more funds into your channel on the chain.
True.
And I think that would be automatic in a lot of software.
Yeah, that's true. That's really cool, indeed. If you have negative fees. But
So, I'm looking for a job and have been since last August. And there's a guy in America called Richard who sent me $150 for doing some web scraping projects for him. He sent that to me as two different projects, 100 and then 50 a few weeks later. If we want to have a payment channel, because these are unidirectional, because they can be closed unilaterally, there is a direction to that payment channel. Who opens the channel with whom? If he doesn't transfer the money when I have in fact done the work, then do I have some guarantee that I'm going to get paid for having done this web scraping?
first of all, you can't open a channel with somebody that's offline.
Right.
So to open a channel, you both have to make a commitment to a commitment contract. Where you say, hey, I'm opening a channel with you, and he says, okay. So you both have to exchange the contract. So to open a channel, you both have to be online. Otherwise, the other one doesn't respond, and you don't have a channel.
And the direction of that, because you said that it can be closed unilaterally, so that there is a direction of it. Is it me opening the channel with him, or him opening the channel with me? Because I'm trying to receive money.
Yeah, if you trying to receive money, he has to open a channel with you, where he has $100, for instance, on his side, and you have $0 on your side. So he can send you the $1 to it. In fact, he will have to do $105 or $101 because there's not only the fees but also, I forgot the name, there has to be a small margin also on it to happen. So, but that's our details. But he have to open a channel. He have to
need a reserve.
A reserve. That's the one I was looking for. So.
And when he's already opened that channel, to then increase the size of that from 100 to 150 a couple of weeks later,
then he has
does that require both of us to re-establish a new contract?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's at the moment yes. In the future, it's called splicing. It hopefully not. Yeah. But,
in practice, we use PayPal, and I spent all of the money that he sent me on Christmas presents.
Okay.
But
Cool.
that was then done not on chain, but in banks.
Yeah.
Satisfied both of us. But in practice, I think it would be nice to see a lightning fast way to do that.
I think if you
do
do
decentralized instead of both having to trust PayPal.
Yeah, I think if you do $100, there's a big chance that the market will fail because at the moment, the nodes are really have small amounts every node. So the bigger your amount you try to send, the higher the chance of a failure of your route. So I would recommend to do like I did now 3 satoshis. So to really show how much it is, but we have to do small amounts. Yeah, if the trust increases and the more nodes will go to the system, it increases in capacity and because in last year in February and March it was like regular transactions were like 10, 15, 20 cents, and now you can do already $15, $20, if I'm not mistaken, but those are like, yeah, I found some numbers on the average transactions, like Bitrefill gave some insights in it, but I'm going to do the next slide because otherwise we're not enough time. So going to a little bit faster on this one. Maybe I'll already answered a little bit of it, but what if Alice broadcasts an older transaction? So, for instance, we still have Alice going to the bartender Bob. They both have 5 bitcoins on each side. Alice buys 2 coffees from Bob. So now Bob has 7 bitcoin and $7, and Alice has $3. Sorry, my calculations are not right away. So Alice would have all the incentive to broadcast just this commitment transaction instead of this one. So we need some kind of system where each new commitment transaction, or like each new contract, invalidates the older one. Therefore, we have to look at how these are outputs of how this commitment transaction looks like. The important thing to notice is that if you want to close a channel, where, for instance, there's 5 bitcoins on Alice's side and 5 bitcoins on Bob's side, and Alice closes the channel, 5 bitcoins goes immediately to Bob. But the 5 bitcoins that would go to her, there is a slight delay in it. Now, why is this delay in it? This gives Bob the time to have a look at the contract and sees that, hey, this contract is an older contract, while in fact we have a newer contract where I should receive 7 bitcoins instead of 3 bitcoins. If this would be like, if Alice broadcasts the transaction, it's immediately, then Bob wouldn't have the time to look at the contract and sees that, hey, you are stealing money from me. So that's why the one that closes the channel has to wait a couple of blocks, some time, before he gets the money back. So how does this work? It's called, if you're trying to cheat, for instance, so if Bob sees that Alice is cheating, Bob has a private keys to drain the full channel capacity. So if there, for instance, $10 on it, and Alice is cheating, Bob can take all the $10 from it, and Alice has nothing. So that's the punishment if you're trying to cheat on Lightning. Should be said that this is really, really rarely happening, but there has to be some kind of punishment mechanism if somebody cheated. Like I said, it rarely happens.
That's okay, but if Alice wouldn't have anything with the channel, it won't risk anything.
Yeah, great. So for instance, what he's telling is, if Alice would have 0 bitcoins and Bob has 10 bitcoins, then Alice wouldn't lose anything, like saying, okay, I'm going to broadcast this one because even if he broadcasts the new state, I should have nothing. That's why there should be a small reserve in it. So Alice can never drain the channel to 0. It's always, I think it's 10% or not sure what.
It's on the client, but it's negotiating.
Okay, yeah, so you can negotiate it. There's some LND and C Lightning has some standards in it, but there's also, the important thing is there's also some reserve in it. Because otherwise they would, well, it's a good one. So the thing is, you could compare it to going to court. Everybody is making contracts, but a few people go rarely to court. It's the same with Lightning. You make all these different contracts, and if there's happening something where somebody tries to cheat or somebody goes offline, then you can take your contract and brings it to the blockchain, which acts as a referee. So it's cheaper if you're playing along and are friends, and it's more expensive if you're making arguments. So I summed up some advantages and some challenges in Lightning. I already talked about a bit. I found this one really important, like I mentioned. It gives you an incentive to run a full node because it only requires some software on top of your full node. Increases fungibility, privacy. Each channel can do 500 contracts, 500 transactions a second. So if you multiply this with all the channels you can open in Lightning, you can have millions of transactions a second. Yeah, immediate settlement. It's really cheap. Like my transaction I did before with the Lightning Spin, it was normally it's around 2 satoshis. So 1.3 satoshis for doing this Lightning transaction. And the cool thing is you can have cross-blockchain payments. So Lightning is not only fixed to Bitcoin, but it can work on every blockchain, like for instance Litecoin, Monero, if they meet some certain requirements, like having the delay of these payments, hash time locked contracts with the secrets that are exchanged, and having multi-signatures activated. Then you can do it. Like I was in Tokyo a couple of months ago, and I talked to Roger Ver, and to Roger Ver, of course, was really offensive. But I talked to a lead developer of Bitcoin.com, and he was really open-minded for Lightning. He was like, it's looked up in Lightning, and does it really work? He didn't have a clue really how Lightning was evolving and how the technology was. But he was like, yeah, I saw something happening. Can you use it? I would almost ask like, can you download the wallet? And I will show you. But it was in a Bitcoin Cash meetup with Roger Ver, so I didn't really have the balls to do it. But he was open-minded for it, which I think is cool. Then the challenges are like, it's trustless, but like mentioned before, you have to stay online. So, for instance, if you want to pay money to somebody, with Bitcoin you can have a QR code, and this QR code you can make a tattoo on yourself, you can print it on a wall, for instance. With Lightning, it's not. If you have like this QR code, you can only use it once, and you have to stay online also for receiving payments. I have to say that it's still at the moment, because in the it's a German guy, René Pickert. René Pickert. He's already building something where Lightning could go offline also, which is really cool. Cold storage at the moment, no, but Electrum is also building cold storage solution for doing that. So liquidity also a big problem. If, for instance, a merchant wants to accept Bitcoin of Lightning, there are some liquidity problems, because if he opens a channel and he wants to receive Bitcoins, then in fact what really should happen is that every participant should open a channel with him, and if this channel is drained, then each new client should open a new channel with him. And also, if he wants to pay his services, he would always have to open a new channel for his supplies, which is really hard. So liquidity is a problem. Routing is a problem, especially if you're doing bigger payments. And yeah, this is a little bit the same, no offline transaction, but it's under construction. And otherwise, I couldn't really find some challenges or disadvantages, but if you have some, more than happy to put them on.
Is Bitcoin Cash work on Lightning?
If they fix the malleability problem, it could be, but I'm not sure if they did. No, they didn't fix it.
They first not even not doing that.
Excuse me?
They fixed one kind of malleability, but not the one we use for payment.
What's malleability?
Yeah.
Malleability is the ability to make a transaction with the same economics but a different cryptographic hash. So the smart contracts in Lightning require the transaction ID to remain the same. You can alter a transaction subtly on Bitcoin Cash so that it still pays the person and your leak is protected, but it invalidates any smart contracts that you build on top of it. That was fixed in Bitcoin with C.
Yeah, what's really, yeah, indeed, that's what malleability also does is, like, if you're paying somebody, like somebody could change a small tiny thing in that payment, which changes the transaction ID, which gives it the identity. The payment still goes through, but it looks like a whole different payment. And if you're building systems on top of that, then you're like, hey, where's my payment? Because it's gone. Well, that's a malleability fix. That's what SegWit and what the whole commotion and all the discussions about, because they call it the SegWit coin, not Bitcoin. SegWit coin, never heard about it. But so I don't know if we still have some time. So I'm a little bit nerdy, so I love nerdy stuff also. What are they building? Atomic multipads, EMP. You already heard about it. It's where you can, if you now want to do a single payment, but for instance one node only has $5 capacity, and you want to send $10, you can split up your $10 in 2 payments, each payment sending $5 to one node and another node, till it reaches the end node, and the end node will receive $10. So it increases the chance of a successful payment by a lot. So that's really a cool thing. Splicing, where you can top up or drain capacity in your channel without closing it. Watchtowers is, for instance, where you outsource the monitoring of your channels without giving any of your privacy to third parties. So you don't have to be online all the time. Dual funded channels. At the moment, it's only possible to open a channel where there's some funds on your side and 0 funds on the other side. LND already has the capabilities to have dual funding, so one party can do $5 and I can do $5, but it's not how do you say it? Suitable for Lightning. It's only one implementation that can use it. Submarine swaps is where you can do Lightning payments to someone that only receives a Bitcoin regular on-chain. So it happens in a trustless, direct way. So at the moment, if you want to pay Lightning, it should go to also a Lightning receiver. But with submarine swap, the receiver shouldn't have Lightning, but also could have like regular Bitcoin on-chain payments. So Lightning can pay Bitcoin and Bitcoin can pay Lightning. The really cool things that they are building. Some questions about this? So setting up a Lightning wallet. Yeah, if you have some questions, I can help you after the presentation to set up with a Lightning wallet and to put some funds in it so you have Lightning. These are 3 mobile wallets I really love. This is still in development, but it has already the desktop wallet available. These are already on mobile. This is Eclair, it's a French company. This is the Bitcoin Lightning wallet with the original name. It's from a Russian guy, if I'm not mistaken. I'm using this one. Excuse me? Yeah, indeed. Yeah, it wasn't really original with the logo and the name of it. It's a great wallet. It really is. I really love it. So I'm using this one. It looks like this. How it works is you just put funds in it. You open a channel, for instance, and you can do Lightning. You can do Lightning payments. Really easy. With Eclair, you can only send, not receive yet. And this is for iOS, but still in development. But
So
very promising.
Is that technically a node if you open a wallet?
No, it's not a node. You are not forwarding payments. You are in fact also connected to a node, and which gives you where you have a balance with that node. You open like a multisig with that node, so you have what is it called? You have a payment channel with that node, but you don't forward payments. There you have like something, a Raspberry or something. You can forward.
You form contracts with that node.
Excuse me?
But you form contracts with that node.
Yeah.
do you? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
Like, people can't open channels to you, can
That's a good question.
They can't on the-
No, they can't. They can't with this one. No, no.
because you have to be on 24 hours, 24/7
Yeah.
with your mobile.
No, it is. Yeah. This one also saves your your contracts on Google Drive. So if your phone crashes and you want to back up because you have a mnemonic phrase also on it, you can take your contracts from Google Drive and upload it. So not really should be improved, but you can already experiment with Lightning. So that's why I really like this one.
So when you said there's no cold storage, are you saying that it's impossible to use Lightning with hardware wallets?
No, it's not impossible because Electrum is already building on it. Trezor did a couple of months ago also a presentation on it, and it's really difficult, of course, but not really sure if I have the knowledge to explain anything about it. But it's not impossible. Maybe if you have some.
Yeah, I think the main difficulty is if you want to route payments and you need to physically interact with the hardware in order to allow payments, it's not easy. So it's possible to have a hardware wallet that can sign anything that increases the balance in your favor, and then only require you to sign things going out. But it's not something that people are really optimizing for.
Yeah.
I understand it's problem with physical problem because you have to connect the hardware should have to be connected all the time to sign those channels.
Yeah, that's indeed one of the problems. And what these.
Because I'm really afraid of software wallet because you won't accept going through the code to see if my private key is not broadcasted somewhere else. So you are sure that this application will trust trustworthy.
I wouldn't recommend to put your private key with all your bitcoins in it.
Okay, so when I create wallet,
yeah,
I'm not creating any kind of private public key.
No, what you are creating is a new wallet with a new private key, and you put, for instance, $10 to it. But I wouldn't recommend to take your mnemonic phrase and import it in this wallet.
Yeah, but I need to go through the code because otherwise I don't know if it's not if it's in the application memory, it can be sent and transmitted anywhere. That's why I'm using hardware wallet, and I don't really like software wallets.
So you're not sure if you're paying to this wallet that this wallet will receive the Bitcoin that you are sending to.
The private key, yeah.
But your private key you should stay offline. You shouldn't import your private key in anything. That's why it's an offline.
So when you are creating this wallet, you should have your whole computer offline. Basically, that's the idea.
But these are normal hot wallets. These are meaning that these private keys are always connected to the internet.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid. I mean, otherwise that except, I don't know, analyzing code, and I cannot be sure that my private key doesn't leak from there.
I understand, but true, it's a valid point, but it's like having a saving account and your normal account. You wouldn't put all your money in one account.
Yeah.
You have like a hardware wallet where you put all your savings, and then the amount you want to have for daily transactions, you put on something like this, and if something happens, it's not that bad.
That's true, but I mean, everybody should be educated about this. You can lose whatever you have if your private key is inside the software that you don't know.
True. Yeah, true. But no, mobile wallets are still pretty secure. It's like it's not that they get hacked all the time. I rather prefer having my private keys on, for instance, on an Android phone than, for instance, have it on a Windows computer. So it's I understand your point.
As long as you are really careful, but not everyone is.
You can mitigate that with two-factor though, right? So
yeah.
This one also?
Well, not currently, but I mean, if your concern is about having your private key or a hot wallet online, you can mitigate that with two-factor authentication.
Would be an extra thing.
You say that miners are not happy about Lightning. What about the exchanges?
I met a guy, Javier. He's from Argentina, And he's the first exchange that does Lightning, and he's really thrilled and excited by it. But I'm not sure what Kraken and Coinbase and Bittrex thinks about it.
They love it.
They love it? Oh, great. Everyone loves it.
Yeah, I mean,
but it's
for
not
them,
as...
it reduces custodial risk because people can instantly move coins there to transact, and when they want to move the coins out, they can move them out straight away. So that reduces the liability of the exchange in the event that
something happens. Yeah. I read also something about it prevents front running, where you have like if exchanges transfer a lot of value between each other and somebody monitors it, people can trade on it because they see like a lot of volume between those exchanges and see like, okay, the price probably goes up. In Lightning it's all private, so you prevent front running where somebody sees it and already speculates on the price movement of it. So it's also an improvement for doing that. But I think also exchanges are also like looking into side chains of Blockstream. So we will look at how things are working out for them over there.
What is that chain?
Yeah, it's in fact having another blockchain which is connected to the main blockchain with where you have one coin back to another coin on that other chain, and that other chain has certain characteristics, capabilities that are maybe not possible on the Bitcoin blockchain. For instance, confidential transactions, which is happening on the sidechain, or using smart contracts, which you can do on the blockchain. And then you put your funds to that, do all the things you want to do, and then you can also do it. That's a really low basic explanation.
You say private a few times, but it's not really, because eventually everything's going to stay on the public blockchain.
So can you repeat?
Oh, you say that Lightning is private,
Mm-hmm.
but is it really like, and eventually it's all going to go public chain?
Yeah, if the channel is closed, then it's public, and then everything on the public ledger is everyone sees that. But the point is that, or the goal is that you don't have to close channels, because you don't want to open and close channels, because that's a lot of burden, that's a lot of hassle. It's not very convenient. So the idea is that you just connect to a few nodes, and then you can use the Lightning for everything, and then it stays on Lightning. Some people told me that the goal is to have 21 million bitcoins on Lightning.
So would you say, like, would that make the chain obsolete eventually?
No, because Lightning is only a peer-to-peer network, which means it connects nodes, but it's not a consensus algorithm. It needs the consensus of the Bitcoin blockchain. So if you want to do settlements, or if there's a dispute, it uses the Bitcoin blockchain. So that's why it has always to have to be connected. You can't use the Lightning network without a base layer.
Well, you got all these networks of people for like 10 years, and then there's a dispute, and then you want to go to the chain. Is that going to be like taking forever to like load? I don't know. It's just
No? Why should I?
Yeah, true.
It's just the last state that you're broadcasting.
Yeah, true.
So no.
So I'm just trying.
Yeah, no. That's the point. No. Some killer apps. It's what you define as a killer app. I think it's a killer app if you can pay for your coffee with Bitcoin. That's my killer app. What you can have is trustless and decentralized exchanges. For instance, like I said, Lightning is a layer which you can build on top of Litecoin and Bitcoin ABC and all kind of other cryptocurrencies. And what you can do is, like, if for instance one node has Bitcoin Lightning payment channels and Litecoin payment channels, you can send payment. You can send a Bitcoin. It will be exchanged to Litecoin, and the receiver will receive Litecoin, all in a trustless setup. So that's cool about Lightning. If you also, that's paraphrasing from Andreas, but he says if you change the medium, it will change the product. meaning that if you change the fees for having a Bitcoin transaction, you can have as many as Bitcoin transactions as you will, and you can have also as low as transactions as you possibly can, because you don't have to pay fees for every transaction. For instance, you can send 1 Satoshi, which isn't possible on the Bitcoin blockchain. So you can have streaming money. You can have machine-to-machine payments, because Bitcoin, of course, doesn't require you to have an identity. Your fridge can talk to your water cooker and to your oven, and they can all pay to each other. They are equal to each other. Not sure if that's a great thing, but yeah, that's perhaps. So thank you for listening. That was Lightning. I hope you all enjoyed it and you learned something about Lightning. If you want to follow my adventures, you can follow me on Twitter. Next year I'm going to South America. I'm also giving some presentations about Lightning over there. And see how it goes. So, thank you.
Very good.